Well, good afternoon, and thank you to everyone as we collectively prepare for this pending storm. I'm Commissioner Ray Sandelli. I'm the Vice Chair, and with me today is Commissioner Ruane, Commissioner Hammond, and Commissioner Greenwell. I'd also like to welcome Lee County Sheriff Carmen Marcino, Lee County Public Schools Superintendent Dr. Christopher Panier, and Lee County Port Authority Executive Ben Siegel. You know, it's been a relatively quiet hurricane season, which is good in one sense. However, we do live in Florida, and what we are experiencing now is not to be unexpected. The county team and our partners have been actively engaged in every aspect of using real-time past experiences, prioritizing planning and meeting current needs, and staging certainly for the post-storm assistance. As we always say, you know, we plan for the worst and we hope for the best. While we listen to a variety of informational sources, we should encourage everyone to go to leegov.com for the most current information. There are a variety of links there which touch on a number of topics that can help all of us plan accordingly. Important updates are also posted there daily. So stay in touch, gather your information, and make the decision that is right for you and for your family. Always err on the side of being safe. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Lee County Manager Roger DeLeger.
Thank you, Commissioner. Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to take you through some operational decisions that have been made in the last few hours. First of all, you know, we've been watching this storm for almost a week now, and the forecast track has changed somewhat over the last couple of days, but you all know all about that. So I just want to talk for a minute about this morning, Lee County declared a state of local emergency following the governor's declaration yesterday. And what that does is provide for us the opportunity to recapture federal funds for dollars that are expended locally in preparation for and response to this storm. As we stand here this afternoon, the EOC is partially activated in anticipation of full activation tomorrow morning. We'll be receiving briefings from the National Weather Service throughout the rest of the evening, so there'll be decisions made tomorrow morning based on the Weather Service briefings. There will be some government closings starting tomorrow and Wednesday, and I don't think will be a complete list, but let me tell you the ones that we are certain of right now, and that is all Lee County offices will be closed Wednesday and Thursday of this week. Lee County School District, all school has been canceled and closed Tuesday and Wednesday of this week. Also closed Tuesday and Wednesday are the property appraiser, tax collector, supervisor of elections, clerk of courts in the court system, and Florida Gulf Coast University. I suspect there will be others, but for the moment, that's the list that we have. I'm sure there will be questions about evacuations and sheltering, but those decisions have not yet been made, although we are fully prepared to take actions depending on what the storm does throughout the evening. So with that, I'll turn this over to Sheriff Marcino, and then when we're all finished, you all can ask your questions.
Thank you. Thank you very much. With these storms, obviously we're no stranger. The state of Florida is no stranger to these storms. Although we've had a quiet season, today we are here because we want to be very proactive. And that unpredictability to the east or west could cause us a lot of grief. So what we want to do is look at this as three parts. Okay, it's before the storm. We want you, which you can control, to do everything to safeguard your home, safeguard all your things that could possibly fly around, the objects, chairs outside, things like that, and make sure that you have your perishables, non-perishables, and everything in order, your water, all the stuff that you need to get through, and that's most important. And then during the storm, okay, after 45 miles per hour, law enforcement comes off the street, and we are no longer responding to calls until that storm passes. So we want you to be ready for that. We want you to be in the right place. We want you to be protected, and know that the second we can, we will re-engage immediately and go back out and assist and take calls and then post the storm. This one I want to touch on in more detail because after the storm, people's first responses are to get back out. And what we ask of you is if you don't have to be out, not to be out. Because we don't know exactly what is safe or unsafe. We are assessing. We're looking at roads and bridges. We're looking at possible downed electrical lines that are all unsafe. And while you may think it's safe, the last thing we need is to get a person in jeopardy of their safety because they rushed right back out. We will continue to bring you updates. As you can see, this team is amazing. Okay, we come together. We're monitoring every single move. And I can tell you this, my family members, the men and women of the Sheriff's Office, we have all assets, all technology, everything is ready by the fingertip. We're ready to go, and we're ready for anything that comes our way. We want to keep our fingers crossed that we don't have to utilize it, but being ready, being proactive to ensure the great residents of this county are going to be safe, and we are ready for that. Again, we just ask you to please, if you don't have to be out, don't be out. We're going to see tomorrow morning, like our county manager said, exactly what we're faced with. It's very unpredictable, and it's ever-changing. And I appreciate you guys listening to us because it's very important. At this time, Dr. Bernier, the superintendent of the schools.
Thank you, Sheriff. Dr. Christopher Bernier. Just a reminder to the community that safety is our #1 priority for our students. So after the noon update today from our members who are embedded here at the EOC, we made the determination as a school district to cancel all classes and all offices operations for the next 2 days. We will be closed on Tuesday and Wednesday. Some point during Wednesday, depending on the storm's progression, we will make some determinations about continuity of operations beginning on Thursday. But at this time, I think the most important thing the community needs to do is to use the time we've provided to you to know that your children will be home safely on Tuesday and Wednesday, to make sure that you're doing everything possible to be prepared. Additionally, this was an aspect of making sure that our staff, our principals, and our administrators could also do the same to protect their homes and protect their families prior to beginning to participate in this process as potential shelter coordinators, other information. Our schools are ready. We spent most of the weekend preparing and making sure that everything was topped off and ready to go. And we look forward to being an integral part of this community and serving this community during this time. I now would provide the Lee County Port Authority Executive Director, Ben Siegel.
Thank you, Dr. Bernier. Again, Ben Siegel, Airport Executive Director. So right now, everything at the airport is operating as normal. We expect that things will change over the next couple days. To get the most up-to-date information regarding flights, whether they be cancellations, suspended flights, whatever the case may be, we encourage people that they need to go to the websites of the individual airlines to get that information. In terms of what the airport is doing right now, the airport has spent most of the weekend preparing for the storm and following its progression. What that means is we've been securing all the equipment at the airport, whether it's ground service equipment, whether it's starting to tie down our jet bridges. At either airport, Page Field, for example, all of our tenants have been notified regarding the storm, making sure that they're taking care of their personal assets and their aircraft, and we're ready. And the team at the airport has done a fantastic job getting ready for the storm. Just a reminder to the public that the airports, either airport, we're not shelters. What we are staging areas for recovery, and we during periods of time during hurricanes and events like this, we keep our assets very secure and are available obviously during any post-recovery areas for both federal and state uses. So with that, I'd like to turn it back over to the county manager. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. I want to clarify one statement that I made earlier. I may have misspoken about the closings for Lee County government. Our offices and operation will be closed down Tuesday and Wednesday of this week. I think I misspoke. The other thing I want to mention is even though evacuations have not yet been called for, and we won't know about that till tomorrow morning, particularly on the barrier islands, if you're feeling unsafe, if you're feeling a little nervous about this storm and the effects, it's okay to go now. If you want, execute your plan B, pack up, get off the island now while the drive is easy. If, in fact, we call for evacuations tomorrow morning, the roads, you all know, the roads are going to be really crowded. And so, you know, if you feel like it and you think it's a good idea, now's a good time to get on the road and head to a safer part of the state. With that, we'll answer any questions you have.
Roger, what's different now than 5 years ago in terms of the county's ability to respond during a hurricane?
Bill, I think, yeah, I've been working storms, you know, since, you know, sometime in the 90s. And every storm that we work, we learn something new. So the things that absolutely change are we have more people living in Lee County than we did during the last storm. During the last storm, 10 days prior to, we had about 30 inches of rain. And so the flooding caused by Hurricane Irma was simply enormous. Well, this is a really wet storm, and we expect pretty significant rainfall. There have been a lot of flood mitigation projects to the entire system. Now, that's not to say that it's impossible for some of these low-lying areas to flood, because it is. You know, I wouldn't want people to think that all the money that's been spent on these projects guarantees no flooding. In fact, if we get 9 inches of rain over a 2-3 day period of time, you know, the traditional low-lying areas can expect to see, you know, an awful lot of water. Florida's, topographically speaking, is very flat. Water drains slowly, so people should be watching closely for the flooding. Now, beyond that, the partnerships with the sheriff's office, the fire districts, the state of Florida, the federal government are all very, very strong and even more refined than they were 5 years ago. So we have all of the assets at our fingertips to respond and recover no matter the event.
I noticed you said mitigations and assets. Could you just elaborate a little bit more exactly what those are?
Sure. During the last couple of years, several years, we have made sure that all of the conveyance systems, all of the drainage canals throughout Lee County, including the Imperial River down at Bonita Springs, trees, it's very natural to have trees fall across those waterways and impede the flow of water. It slows everything down, backs up the water into the flooded neighborhoods. All of those have been cleared. In fact, our DOT crews and others have been out for the last week making sure that there are none of those impediments. So that's a mitigation effort. And the other is the modification of some of the conveyance structures themselves. The weirs and dams and all have been rebuilt and are operational and very well coordinated.
Can we also talk about the bridge as well? You know, a lot of residents may live in Fort Myers but have to transport to Cape Coral or vice versa. Can you just speak about, you know, the plan for that as well?
Well, the bridges remain open. As the wind velocities continue to increase, that's a decision that we will leave to the sheriff's office. Sheriff Marcino will make the determination when it's too perilous for civilians to cross those bridges.
Are you suspending the tolls at all? The governor's done it elsewhere.
I beg your pardon?
Have you suspended any of the tolls on the bridges? The governor's done that elsewhere.
The governor did in fact suspend tolls throughout the state of Florida, and that includes the toll bridges in Lee County.
This has been an extraordinarily difficult storm for the National Hurricane Center to forecast. Has that made it difficult for your response as a county?
No more difficult than any other year in the past. It doesn't matter what storm it is. A couple days ago, Fort Myers, Lee County was right in the very center of the cone of uncertainty, and that's really the best place to be, you know, 3 or 4 days out, because the storm will never, ever behave that way. So those variables always exist, and we train for and plan for all the changes in the characteristics of the storm.
How would decisions be made about what shelters to open, and when would you anticipate would be the time when you need that?
Based on the forecasts overnight, which have an awful lot to do with the wind velocities and how close the storm is to the coast and how much water we would anticipate being pushed onshore in the form of tidal surges, and with the rainfall, once we have a better grasp on all of that dynamic, we'll have a better understanding about what areas we may call for evacuation, and at the same time, determination on what shelters will be open. It's based on the number of people we would anticipate having to evacuate.
In those evacuations, that's something that everybody thinks about, especially during a time like this. That first zone is a very big zone in terms of population and size. Any indications at this time if you're leaning towards that or not? Just based
It is reasonable to think that if there are evacuations, they're going to be in the low-lying areas, right? Everybody knows that if we have tidal surges, those low-lying areas along the coast and in the river will be the first to be affected, followed by those areas that are affected by torrential rainfall. So yes, those are the areas we're thinking about, but to try and define exactly what portions of Zone A will call for evacuation is impossible to tell at the moment.
Okay, we good?
One question for Mayor Smith, if I could. How is the doing as far as getting people from San Diego or doing whatever needs to be done there? What are the challenges that your community faces?
Well, right now, we've had preparations going on for several days, just like Lee County. So we are having a council meeting this evening at 5:30. We'll be talking about our state of emergency, any potential other areas that we need to discuss, whether it's a voluntary evacuation. We stand behind and support the county, and we'll wait for what they do so we can further put in act what we need to do on our next phase of potential evacuations. Like they've been saying, we've been advising everyone, have your plan B. Be ready. We've been through this before, and we know how serious it can be, and we want everyone to take it very seriously and to listen what's being said to all of our leadership.
For the sheriff, real quick, you kind of talked about law enforcement like ceasing operations on the road around 45 miles an hour. How important is it for folks at home to understand that, and does it go for the sheriff's deputies as well as EMS, fire, all those kind of things?
Yeah, so, and that's a great question. The question is, at 45 miles per hour with sustained winds, that we, law enforcement, are now off the streets. And that's important. Again, have, plan B, meaning be ready, is important, because once this storm hits, if it hits, and if we sustain winds past 45 miles an hour, when you dial 911, we're not responding. So we're off the streets until that wind and storm passes, and then we are going to safely and immediately engage in priority. So it depends on the calls that are holding. We will immediately engage, and those plans are in place. I met with my executive staff numerous times to ensure that we're not going to hesitate 1 second. If we are taken off the street, that we re-engage at the highest level, and our personnel are ready to go at the press of the button. So that's a very important message to get out there, because, again, during that storm, we want you to be ahead of things. We want you to have your plan in place. We want you to be safe. Safety is always our number one concern, because that response time is going to be delayed. When you dial 911, we're not going to be there during the storm. So think about what that is. If you have any type of special types of things that you need, special care, have all your plans in order so that you can get through that storm, and we immediately engage after. That's our policy. Any other questions? Thank you.